So our first person that we're going to talk about is Ed Merkle. He's booing himself, as you probably... So we have a variety of categories in our Hall of Fame. You could be a contributor, because we know that there are people who haven't necessarily played here, but they maybe made a big impact. We've got teams of distinction. We've got coaches. We've got individual athletes. And we've had all of those now after this year. Ed is a clear... he's a difference maker in what happened at ALA over the years. So he actually started before me. And he came on as a coach in the program, and in one of his very first years, they won the state championship. So good work, Ed. That's well done. Yeah, it was all coaching on the D-backs, right? That's how it works. But really, what it comes down to is from 1992 to 2015, Ed contributed to our school by serving as an assistant coach, and then really the key that we're going to talk about is that. He started with coaching, and he would help out lots of different things. I'm sure there was softball that he spent time in, and track. And if there was a game, Ed was probably here, helping out in some way, shape, or form. And when I think of Ed, I think the big thing I remember with him is that, number one, is he just loved talking with kids, encouraging kids, hanging out with kids, making a difference in their life. And that is hugely important. The longer I coach, the more I'm here. I tell people about our staff at Arizona Lutheran Academy is they just love kids, and they want to make a difference in their lives. And that was a big part of who he was. And I think the big thing, the other thing is that we now have trainers at all of our games, but we never have had a full-time trainer at ALA. And when Ed came on board, we didn't have anyone. And now, of course, in 2025, that's kind of scary to think about. But we've advanced in the world. But Ed decided that we needed a trainer. So he went and took classes at Glendale Community College. He learned how to do some injury evaluation, some injury prevention. He could tape anything. He could do this, do that. And really, for years and years and years, Ed just showed up at games. And when he was able to make practice outside of his real job, he was there helping kids, doing rehab, doing whatever. And again, we never were able to afford a full-time trainer. If he wasn't at a game, we probably had no one. And that's, again, a little scary thinking about coaches going, well, you might have a concussion. No, I know. I wish I were joking. No, but he just made a huge difference. I remember that I just felt so much better as the football coach and the basketball coach, but especially in football. When Ed was at the game, life was just way, way better. Because the rest of us could focus on doing our job. He could do his job, and the kids got taken much better care of than any other way they possibly could. So I think that's the big thing that I remember from him. And just a couple other things that he and his wife Debbie, their kids have all been a part of ALA over the years. Just the impact they made through a lot of different things. Ed was on the board for a while, and they just still come to events. Like at least once a year, I show up at a football game, and there's Ed and Debbie. They're supporting people they know, other people around. So I think that's a really important part of what happens. And these are just some words that were shared. So his son Bryson was the one who nominated him, and I guess I should have mentioned this at the beginning that. Basically, we wait for people to nominate. It's not that we don't have lots of really deserving people for the Hall of Fame, but I think it's important that friends, parents, brothers and sisters, teammates, they say, I would really love to see my loved one in the Hall of Fame, and they take the time to nominate them. And so Bryson was the one who nominated him, and these are some words from him, just how his dedication, he was a consistent presence for people, and just that, again, longevity of being around in so many different ways. So, again, Ed does not teach here. He never did. He joked about himself. He did play football at NAU, so make no mistake, he was an athlete in his time. Although he said his most notable thing was wrecking his knee on bad turf at NAU. Dealing with all of that, but you can see again his family, and being graduates and all the things that went on there, and he also was still connected with lots of ALA alums, and he said one of his best memories is winning fantasy football last year with all the other ALA alums that he was competing with. So I will give him the floor in a second, but let's congratulate Ed Merkle, contributor.
After that, I got nothing.
Come on over for a second. Let's give you the award. We're going to get a picture.
I just want to talk.
Get it done. Here you go. Right
there. Well, Doug said it all. I got nothing. I'm not getting off that easy. As Doug said, I started ALA in 1991. Did a 4-year stretch here. My friend Tom Bennett, who's like a big brother to me, he's in heaven now. He's the one that introduced me to ALA. And ALA was 8-man football back then. I didn't know what 8-man football was. I always played 11-man football. That was all I knew. And I'm pretty sure I spent the first half of that season trying to look for 3 more people on the field that just weren't there. So I don't know how much of a help I was, but I was out there anyway. So I was a warm body, but that was kind of different. And that 92 team won the state championship. That team was absolutely ridiculously good for an 8-man football team. And back in those days, when you got ahead by 42 points in a game at halftime or later, the game was over. Well, we were at 42 points about a third of the way through the third quarter in the state championship game. The game was over then. Great, we got a state title. We had a 42-point win. But a few years later, they changed that, and I look at some of the athletes that were on that team, and I think some of the records we probably could have put up in that game may have never been broken because that team was just absolutely phenomenal. And it was so much fun, Yeah, Matt Sondog was on that team too. That'll bring some memories back, huh? Kind of tells you how old I am, I guess. But anyway, that was a lot of fun. And then I took a few years off. I was here from 91 through 94. And then when my daughter Faith started here in 2000, what was so great about ALA when I got introduced to it, when my wife and I were introduced to ALA, we just knew that was where we wanted our kids to go, because it meant that much to us. And what was great was they wanted to go there too. This is where they wanted to come. And so this has been family for a long, long time for us. And so it's so important. And actually the way it works out too is my daughter Faith, class of 2004, my son Troy, 2007, Christian, 2008, Bryson, 2015, yeah. A little math for you there. But then I also have a son-in-law, Tyler, and a daughter-in-law, Jenna, also graduates from ALA. That'll tell you how important this school is to us as our family. Being in a small school, especially in the 8-man, you travel a little bit. And even in the 2A, you travel a little bit. And so I've been to Yuma several times. I've been to Thatcher several times. I've been to Bisbee, and I've been up to Joseph City back in the 8-man days. So, and a lot of places in between. So I have no idea how many miles that is. I wouldn't begin to try to figure it out. I'd run out of fingers and toes before I get even close. But anyway, it enabled us to see a lot of the state that way too. Thing I really appreciate about ALA, great players here, always. Great people, always. And the motto for this was, and I remember it, I imagine it still, it's faith, family, and football. The priorities were right. You had your faith. That was the most important thing. You had to take care of your family, and football came last. And what I appreciated too was, if you didn't take care of it in the classrooms here, you weren't playing. You weren't practicing. So it just makes all of our athletes ready to face the world, when they graduate from here, because it isn't going to be easy. And they know they got to be committed to what they're doing to be able to keep doing what they're doing on the football field. Anyway, I've made some amazing friends here over the years. A lot of coaches, some of them, and I'll name some of them that they had even back in in 91. Tom Bennett, of course. Doug Lang was the head coach at the time. He left to go take the job in university. Grits, he's a legend here, of course. And there was a gentleman named Jim Hahn who was one of the coaches, another volunteer, another great guy. Jim Hahn had a little bit of enthusiasm for football, to say the least. Jim Hahn would headbutt the guys with helmets on. He didn't have one on, of course, and more than once he got 2 little blood spots from the rivets in the helmet or something like that. So to say he was a little enthusiastic was definitely an understatement. So, and truthfully, I'm so humbled and I'm so honored to be included in this class, especially with Ben and Andy and Nick. And I got a little short story about those 3 guys. Of course, the volleyball girls too, and then and Brittany. All of you guys, amazing athletes here. Didn't spend as much time working with you, obviously, but I do have stories with little short memories I have from playing or coaching these guys. Nick, my son Troy, first full contact practice, he hit you with his very first contact. Yeah, and you didn't kill him, thank you. But he really debated whether he wanted to play football anymore. And that's just what it was like, because when you're here, you have maybe 30, 35 kids out for football. You got a JV team, you got a varsity team. Well, the JV team is practicing against a varsity team. Makes them better after a while. But they take some abuse too. So that was Troy's introduction, and I did talk to him. He did stick it out. He's 4 more years. So thank you again for letting him live. Ben, one thing I remember at you, we were playing a game at the Arizona Boys Ranch.
Oh yeah.
Which was, none of you are I don't even think it's even around anymore.
Canyon State.
Huh? Canyon State Academy. Okay, that's what it was. It was Arizona Boys Ranch. And if you're not familiar with that, that's where they send the juveniles that are having issues. Okay, we weren't playing then. We were playing. It was I don't even remember who we were playing at the time. Tempe Prep. Okay, yeah, because they didn't have their own home field. But I remember Ben. We were in a real tight game with them, and Ben had ankle issues, and we're just trying to keep him taped, trying to get him up, and he kept going in and playing, and he ended up kicking the winning field goal in that game on a bad ankle. That's one amazing thing I remember about Ben. So and of course now he's a cop. He'll be nice. And of course Andy Schrader. Sorry. Andy was like family to us. Great athlete, of course. Just a great man. One thing I remember about Andy, he was one of the first ones that really took ALA into the 11-man football arena. He was a phenomenal athlete. He was a phenomenal man, phenomenal player. And I remember we had a playoff game. We were playing up at Thatcher, and we were running a double wing all the time. And when you run the double wing, you got backs on both sides, and it's pretty easy for the defense to try to figure out where the ball is going. So we actually changed our offense just for Andy. We went to the I. It changed everything about the game for us, and that's how phenomenal teams were. They set their offense and their defense just to counter him, and that's a lot of times he still made it work. But we changed our offense for that. And one thing I do remember, I was a kind of a novice at internet stuff. Probably still am because I'm old. But I would get on and I'd read like high school pages and stuff like that. And there was a kid at Yuma Catholic that had posted something about that. And he said that Andy was the best running back he'd ever seen, especially in a small school. So I've always remembered that, and that goes back a few years anyway. I talked about some of the coaches, and a lot of these coaches have just become really good friends of mine. Doug is, especially Scott Indahl, who's coached for here for several years. Brian Kelly, another one of the coaches here, and still somebody I call a good friend. And I just appreciate everything that all these men have meant to me, and that I can still call them my friends. Doug and Michelle, Pastor Bodie and Jen, or PB and J as they were called over the years. Anyway, my final thank yous, and I'll quit boring you people here. Bryson, thank you for nominating me at the World. My wife Deborah. When I first started here, like I said, I was 31 years old. I had 3 little kids at home. Another one coming later. And I was able to come down and make practices Friday nights, road trips. Like I said, Joseph City. That's not a 2-hour drive. But my wife encouraged me to do this because she knew what it meant to me, and she's always been there, always been behind me, always encouraged me, and our kids too, of course. But a little story about my wife. You're familiar with two-a-days if you're a football player. Two-a-days are where you practice in the morning, or you practice in the afternoon, or you practice in the afternoon, or you practice in the evening. Usually you do it up at camp. Sometimes you do 3-a-days, but we had our own two-a-days in our house. We housed kids when our boys were here too. We housed 3 other football players. We had 5 high school football players in our house at one time, and Bryson was still there. Faith was up at college, so she was already gone. In fact, we used up her room. But Debbie had her own two-a-days, because back then, and I think they still do it, in the summer before school started, you do 7 o'clock practices at night, and you go for about 3 hours to help avoid the heat and everything like that. Well, we had 5 teenage boys football players in our house. So she would do a first two-a-day was making a meal about 4 o'clock for them to eat. And then when they got back, she'd do another one at about 11 o'clock. So that was her two-a-days. Her commitment to everything, and definitely helped me out too. So anyway, wrap all this up. I am so humbled, and I'm so honored to be included in this. I thank ALA for everything they've done for my family, for me, and I look for many, many more years of this, and for allowing me to do something that I've just loved to be able to do for all these years, and letting me be part of it. And Deborah, I love you.
Well, he took 2 of my stories that I was going to tell, so